She was created to be a weapon, but became one of the most powerful heroes in the Invincible universe. From secret origins and tragic choices to love, war, and immortality, this is the full story of Adam Eve. Adam Eve first appeared in Invincible issue number 2. She was part of the Teen Team, one of the most well-known superhero groups on Earth. Mark, the main character of the story, met the Teen Team while trying to stop a robbery caused by the Mahler twins. That's when he discovered that Adam Eve was actually Samantha, a girl who went to the same high school as him. The two quickly became close friends, since they shared something important. Both were superheroes. But to really understand who Eve is, we have to go back to the beginning. Before she was even born. While still in her mother's womb, Samantha was part of a secret experiment funded by the US government. This project, called the Superhuman Development and Research Program, had one goal: to create a living weapon. During the pregnancy, Samantha's mother showed strange signs that the baby had special powers. Realizing the danger, a scientist named Dr. Elias Brandyworth, who later became like a father figure to Eve, decided to act. Right after Samantha was born, he secretly swapped her with another baby. He gave her to a couple named Betsy and Adam Wilkins, who believed their own child had died at birth. From that moment on, Dr. Brandyworth watched over Samantha from a distance, making sure she stayed safe and hidden. He believed that if her powers were ever discovered, she could become a real-life atomic bomb. Even as a child, Samantha was extremely smart, especially in atomic science. She was accepted into a special school for gifted students. However, her skills were mostly strong in science. She didn't do as well in other subjects. Eve has a rare and powerful ability. She can control matter at the atomic and molecular level. In simple terms, she can change one object into something else. One of the first times she used her power was when she turned a boiled chicken into a grilled cheese sandwich, a clear sign of her power to reshape matter. As she trained, her abilities grew stronger. Over time, she became almost limitless, able to create anything she could imagine, as long as she understood its molecular structure. Even though her adoptive father didn't support using her powers, Samantha still chose to become a superhero at a young age. One of the first villains she faced was Kilcannon, a criminal who often showed up to fight her. Eve's first major mission was against 4 powered children trying to rob a bank. But the robbery was actually a trap set by the government to expose her. Those children were failed results of the same experiment that created Eve. During the battle, Eve discovered something important. She couldn't control living things. This was a key limit in her powers. She was unable to manipulate living tissue, including animals and humans. This block was added by Dr. Brandyworth himself. He believed that no one should have the power to control life. It was simply too dangerous. If Eve could do that, she would be almost godlike. After a serious incident, Samantha, also known as Adam Eve, was hunted down by the government. The man in charge of capturing her was a high-level agent named Steven Erickson. That's when Eve learned a shocking truth. Her real mother wasn't dead, like she had always believed. Instead, she had been held captive, forced to give birth to other superpowered children, like the ones Eve had fought at the bank. But once Eve was captured, her mother was no longer useful, and Erickson had her killed. Not long after, Dr. Brandyworth was also murdered. His death broke a mental block inside Eve's mind, a barrier that had been placed in her subconscious. Once it was gone, she unlocked her full potential. With her intelligence and incredible power, Eve erased Erickson's memories and knocked him unconscious, finally ending the long hunt for her. After escaping government control, Eve started living a mostly normal life. She continued working as a teenage superhero, acting on her own while learning more about herself. During this time, she met a young man named Rex Splode. Rex used to work for a secret government group under someone named Radcliffe. He helped Eve defeat Kilcannon, the villain she had faced several times before. They started as partners, but eventually grew closer. When Rex became a fugitive for killing several people during a mission, Eve let him stay at her house to hide. While on the run, the two of them faced off against Erickson, the same agent who once tried to capture and use Eve. Together, they worked as a team and finally defeated him. After that, Rex officially became a free superhero. Eve helped him create a new costume, and the two began dating. They also joined the teen team to work alongside other young heroes. While working with the team, Eve met Mark Grayson, the main character of Invincible, during a night patrol. That night, Mark was trying to stop the Mauler twins when he ran into Eve and the teen team. Once the situation was under control, the team invited Mark to join, but he turned them down. Later, Mark and Eve realized they went to the same high school and started to become good friends. Not long after, students at their school began to go missing. Robot, another member of the teen team, investigated the case. He discovered that their physics teacher, Mr. David Hiles, used to work as a government weapons engineer. David's son had been bullied at school and took his own life. Devastated, David decided to get revenge by turning popular students into living bombs. In his final attempt, he turned himself into a bomb and tried to take Mark and Eve with him. But Mark acted quickly and flew him to Antarctica just before the explosion. Even though Eve was still dating Rex, she started to develop feelings for Mark. But everything fell apart when she caught Rex cheating on her with Duplicate, another member of their team. Eve immediately broke up with Rex and left the teen team. Even after leaving the team, she kept fighting crime, often working together with Mark. But she later found out that Mark was already dating Amber Bennett, a girl from their school. Not long after, the teen team officially disbanded. After Omni-Man killed the Guardians of the Globe, Cecil Stedman gave Robot the task of building a new team. Most of the teen team members were chosen as candidates. Robot also invited Mark and Eve to try out for the new lineup. Mark said no, feeling overwhelmed with everything happening in his life. Eve also walked away, possibly because she didn't want to work with her ex, Rex. At that time, Mark was in a relationship with Amber, and Eve was single. She tried to move on by dating William, Mark's best friend. But that relationship didn't last long. After graduating high school, Eve started thinking more seriously about her future. She wanted her life to mean something. She decided to stop being a superhero and never told Mark how she truly felt about him. Instead, she moved to Africa, using her powers to help people in need. Later, when Amber found out Mark's secret identity, he offered to take her on a short trip to visit Eve. At first, Eve was excited, thinking Mark had come alone. But she quickly became disappointed when she saw Amber with him. The visit didn't last long because Mark had to rush home. Their house was under attack by Angstrom. Eve was left in charge of getting Amber back safely. During a battle with Angstrom, Mark was trapped in an alternate dimension. There, he was rescued by a future version of the Guardians of the Globe. They told him that without his help, their world would have fallen into chaos. Before Mark returned to his own timeline, an older version of Adam Eve admitted something. She had always had feelings for Mark, but never told him. It was her way of finding peace with the past. After coming back, Eve continued her humanitarian work in Africa. But when Earth was threatened by the alien race called the Sequids, she left her hideout to help Mark and the Guardians of the Globe. Around the same time, the Lizard League attacked a nuclear missile base. Rex was badly injured and had to be hospitalized. Eve visited him and forgave him for cheating on her with Duplicate. During their conversation, Rex told her that Mark and Amber had broken up. Eventually, Mark and Eve opened up about their feelings for each other, though they didn't start dating right away. Mark admitted that seeing the future version of Eve made him think more seriously about her. Hearing that, Eve decided to return to Africa to reflect on everything. Not long after, Mark had a falling out with Cecil. He discovered that Cecil was secretly using villains Mark had defeated as tools for government missions. After the fight, Mark and Eve embraced and officially started their relationship, a relationship that would last through most of the series. After cutting ties with Cecil, Eve decided to take her relationship with Mark to the next level by starting a business called Invincible Incorporated. She hired Mark to work as a private protector, guarding businesses, individuals, or areas under contract. Mark's first job was to stop Powerplex, a former Pentagon scientist who had a personal grudge against him. But during their clash, Powerplex accidentally caused the death of his own family. That tragedy only made his hatred for Mark even stronger. Eve's next big challenge came during the Invincible War. Angstrom returned, and this time, he he summoned countless versions of Invincible from across the multiverse to attack Mark. During the battle, Eve managed to defeat one of the alternate Marks. But then, another version of Mark struck back, badly injuring her and leaving her in a coma. The main Mark rushed her to the hospital, where she remained unconscious for the rest of the war. After the Invincible War ended and Angstrom was defeated, an even greater threat appeared. Conquest, an old but extremely powerful and brutal Viltrumite. At that time, Eve was still in a coma from the previous battle. But when she woke up, she saw Mark being brutally beaten by Conquest on live TV. Even though she hadn't fully recovered, Eve rushed to the battlefield. She tried to trap Conquest in an energy field, but he broke through it easily and stabbed her, leaving her bleeding on the ground, seemingly dead. That moment sent Mark into a furious rage unlike anything seen before. But then something unexpected happened. Eve woke up. Her atomic restructuring powers activated at full strength, allowing her to completely heal herself. She unleashed a massive energy blast that burned most of Conquest's skin before collapsing from exhaustion. Mark saw his chance. He gave everything he had to defeat Conquest. Even though it looked like Conquest was finished, the truth is, he survived. More about that is revealed later in the story. After the battle, Eve and Mark attended the funeral of Rex Splode, who died during the recent war. At the service, Eve admitted that she once loved Rex, but his death gave her a sense of closure, helping her finally forgive him and move on. They both tried to return to normal life. Eve focused on rebuilding Invincible Incorporated, but things didn't go well. The war had caused serious damage, and the public had started to lose trust in Mark. At the same time, Eve noticed something strange about her powers. Ever since she came back to life, her abilities had become unstable. Every time she used them, they would become unpredictable and only settle down after some time. During this period, Eve discovered she was pregnant with Mark's child. But she chose not to tell him. Soon after, the Viltrumite War began. Mark, along with Oliver, Nolan, also known as Omni-Man, and Alan, left Earth to fight the remaining Viltrumites in deep space. Eve stayed behind, constantly worried about Mark's safety. To keep Invincible Inc. running, she hired another superhero named Bulletproof to pretend to be Mark for a while. But their working relationship became uncomfortable. Bulletproof started acting inappropriately, and even tried to flirt with her more than once. Almost a year passed before Mark finally returned to Earth. Eve felt hurt. She had been afraid that he might never come back. One evening at Immortal's house, Eve confessed something she had kept to herself. She told Mark that she had once been pregnant, but decided to terminate the pregnancy. Mark was shocked. He didn't even know she had been pregnant, but at the same time, he felt guilty. Realizing that his long absence had pushed her into that difficult situation. For a long time after that, Eve took a step back from action. She focused on supporting Mark emotionally as he went through many difficult situations. These events are explored more deeply in later chapters, centered around Invincible. After facing so many challenges, Mark and Eve decided to move in together at the Grayson family home. Not long after, Eve found out she was pregnant again. But this time, she was determined to keep the baby and start building a stable life with Mark. However, things quickly took a dark turn. A radical anti-hero named Dinosaurus set off a series of explosions around the world. After the disaster, Eve believed Mark had died. But in truth, Mark's death was only a part of Dinosaurus's plan to trick the world. In the end, the plan turned out to be unnecessary. When Mark returned, Eve was both shocked and relieved. During this time, Mark discovered something important. Eve couldn't safely use her powers while pregnant. Every time she activated her abilities, her metabolism would spike. This sudden change could weaken her body and seriously harm the baby. So, to protect the child, Eve had to stop using her powers completely. Just as things started to calm down again, another threat returned. Angstrom Levy. He came back and attacked, kidnapping Eve and dragging Mark into another dimension. But this time, Eve didn't fight. Instead, she tried to talk to Angstrom. She explained that if he let go of his obsession with killing Mark, he could actually use his intelligence and multiverse technology to do something meaningful. Her words made Angstrom stop and think. He realized his mistake and agreed to release Mark. But before he could follow through, another version of Mark showed up. This alternate Mark captured Angstrom and sent him away to a far-off dimension. This experience changed the way Mark viewed villains. Still, he believed that Angstrom was a threat that had to be stopped for good. Eve begged him not to go after Angstrom. She believed Angstrom was no longer dangerous, but Mark didn't listen. He teamed up with Robot and traveled to another dimension to hunt him down. There, Mark was betrayed. Robot turned on him and left him behind to die. It took months before Mark could return to his own world. When he finally came back, Eve was furious. While Mark was missing, Robot had told her that he was dead. The shock broke her emotionally. She stopped eating and nearly lost the baby. That pain led her to a decision. She left Mark, not just because he ignored her warning, but because she couldn't keep living with the fear that Mark could disappear or die at any moment. Soon after, Mark went through something deeply traumatic. He was sexually assaulted by Anissa, a powerful female Viltrumite hiding on Earth. But Mark kept this event to himself. He didn't tell Eve about it for a long time. After everything that happened, Mark decided it was time to confront Robot, the one who betrayed him and caused so much pain. But by then, Robot had already made his move. He killed Cecil Stedman along with many other heroes and villains, and secretly began his plan to take control of Earth. Mark tried to fight Robot, but Robot had new drones that released powerful energy pulses every time they were attacked. These pulses threw off Mark's balance and made it hard for him to keep fighting. While escaping to get back home, Robot tracked them down and attacked again. This time, Eve was caught in the blast and lost her leg. Mark rushed her to a Viltrumite warship. That's where Eve gave birth to their daughter, and they named her Terra. Later, Eve was fitted with a prosthetic leg, and she and Mark slowly repaired their relationship. Mark kept trying to stop Robot, but when he saw the huge army Robot had built, he knew he couldn't win. So Mark and Eve made a big decision. They left Earth. While they were gone, Robot turned Earth into his own version of a perfect world. Meanwhile, Mark and Eve started a new life on the home planet of the Coalition of Planets. But becoming parents in an unfamiliar place brought a lot of challenges to their marriage. Eventually, Mark opened up to Eve about something painful. He told her he had been sexually assaulted by Anissa, a Viltrumite hiding on Earth. Eve supported him and tried to help him heal, but the trauma made it hard for both of them to move forward. During this time, Mark also started working for Alan as a spy. On one mission to investigate the planet Thraxa, Mark was pulled into the past by a strange alien force. When he finally made it back, 5 years had passed. In that time, Eve had tried to move on. She even dated someone else, but the relationship didn't last. When Mark returned, they shared an emotional reunion and decided to be together again. They took Terra and Mark's brother, Oliver, on a vacation to a distant planet. But their peaceful vacation didn't last long. Thrag, Mark's greatest enemy, showed up along with 2 of his hybrid Viltrumite children. A brutal fight broke out. Oliver was killed by Thrag, and both Mark and Eve were badly injured, nearly dying. While lying on the edge of death, Eve's powers activated again. She used her abilities to heal and bring both herself and Mark back to life. But she couldn't save Oliver. He had been gone too long. After this heartbreaking event, Mark and Eve finally got married. Soon after, the final battle with Thrag began. Mark and Eve survived, and Mark became the new leader of the Viltrumite race. Their daughter, Terra, would also grow up to become a superhero. Later, Mark found out that Anissa, the Viltrumite who had once attacked him, had a son named Marky. After Anissa died during the battle with Thrag, Marky eventually became the new Invincible of Earth. Eve lived a long and peaceful life with Mark. When she grew old and thought she was near the end, her powers suddenly activated again, restoring her body to its prime as if she had never aged. She laughed, realizing that she might be nearly immortal. From that moment on, she and Mark continued to lead the Viltrumite Empire for thousands of years, bringing peace and helping countless planets across the universe.